Good morning, and welcome to Monday, April 6th. This is algebra. We've covered all the ways in which we can solve a system of linear equations, but now we're looking at inequalities. What is a linear inequality, and how can we solve it? Well, here's how we're going to start. I'm going to give you an example of a linear inequality. It looks very much like an equation, except it's got an inequality symbol. So here's my example. Y is less than or equal to 1/2 x plus 4. All right, real similar to slope-intercept form, except of course it's an inequality. So there will be a wide range of solutions that will make the inequality work. Here's how we solve it. We're going to graph it. So I'm going to put as good a line as I can manage on my grid. You, of course, should have printed out some graph paper for this. It makes life easier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the line. Okay. 4 is the y-intercept, and this has a slope of 1/2, so it goes up 1 and over 2. You can do it again if you like. And here is the sketch of my graph. Okay, so far, it's the same thing as a line. Now, the difference is that there's a range of solutions, and we're going to show that range with shading. Here's how I like to tell my students to do this, because sometimes the visualization is hard. That's a line. Let's consider it to be like a hill, and there's a little guy on the hill. Gravity says the little guy has to be standing on this side of the hill, because unless he is a fly, he can't stick to the underside of the hill. So far, so good. The symbol I have here is less than or equal to. Less than. It should be logical. Less than, the guy is under the guy, under his feet, the other side of the line. So we are going to answer the question with shading under the line. Now, believe it or not, that's the answer to the question, because every coordinate in the shaded region is a solution to the inequality. Well, let's test one. Let's pick an easy coordinate. How about this one right here? It's in the shaded region. It's the coordinate 2, 0. I think, if I'm right about my shading, this will also help us tell if we're wrong about the shaded area. I think it's going to work. So I'm going to plug it in. All right, so we had draw a line. I'm going to say put the guy on there and shade. The fourth step is to check, which is what we're about to do. So 2, 0 is a coordinate in the shaded area. So is 0, 0, -2, 1, 5, 10. There's lots of, well, maybe not 5, 10, but 5, 3 at least. There's lots of possible coordinates that will fit here. Obviously, there's actually an infinite supply. We just chose an easy one. So I plugged it in. Now that's an x and that's a y. If y is 0, it's got to be less than or equal to 1/2 of x, which I chose 2. Plus 4. That means 0 has to be less than or equal to, half of 2 is 1, plus 4. 0 is less than or equal to 5. Well, I agree that 0 is definitely less than or equal to 5, so that solution worked. We did a good job. That's all we're really doing for graphing a single linear inequality and solving it with the graph. So far, so good. If you have questions, of course, pause and repeat. But that's our step so far. Now, we've done a lot of systems of equations. That's 2 lines. It could even be more than 2 lines. But we've only done 2 lines so far. And we saw where they crossed, and the solution was the coordinate where they crossed. But this time, well, it's not just where they cross. Let's see an example of what we do with a system of linear inequalities. Going to erase this. I'm going to give you a new system. Well, a system. I'm going to leave the guidelines there, though, because they're still the correct guidelines, okay? Except this time I'm going to say draw lines, because there's going to be more than one. There's also going to be more than one guys. So we have our steps. Now here's the system I'm going to give you. Here we go. We'll say y is less than or equal to -1/2 x plus 3, and y is greater than x minus 4. Please note also, I'm giving you the equations in slope-intercept. They don't have to be in slope-intercept, but if you had equations that were not, you could always put them into slope-intercept form for easy graphing. All right, so I'm going to draw my coordinate plane. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up. Let's just do 6 all the way across. And again, if you have graph paper, you should probably be using it. What's the first thing I want to do? Well, because I'm drawing more than one line, I'm going to use more than one color just to differentiate. So my first line has a y-intercept at 3. So I go up to 3 on the y-axis and put a dot, and it goes down 1/2. That means down 1 to the right 2, and you could do it more than once if you want. Again, it's a hand-drawn graph. It's not perfect, but this is as good as it gets for me for now. All right, so I drew my line. I'm going to draw my guy now too. Again, gravity says he's got to be on this side of the line. The symbol I had was less than or equal to. Less than is under the guy. So I'm going to shade down, okay? I'm not going to shade crazy because I have to see the graph still. But that's the shaded area for the first line. The second line has an intercept of -4. So I go down 4 and put a dot. And that slope, when there's no number in front of the x, it's the number 1. So it's going up 1 over 1. Again and again. Before I draw the line, I want you to notice that the first line had the or equals choice. This one does not. The only difference between the inequality symbol that has the equal sign and the one that does not is that it's not going to be a solid line. It's going to be dotted. So we're going to draw a dotted line. Okay? The fact that it can't equal means that it can't be on that actual line itself. We represent that with dashes. All right, now this guy has got to be over here. And I shaded greater than. Now that's different than the first two examples I gave you where we were doing less than. Greater than is on top of the guy, over the guy, around the guy, just not under his feet. So I'm going to shade up from that line to cover my guy. Okay. Now, as you can probably tell, those two shaded areas do overlap. The places where they overlap, that's the solution to the problem. Sometimes we go back in and we just erase the non-overlapping area. I, of course, can do that easily with a dry erase. You might not be able to easily do that. It doesn't matter. You don't have to, but it might make it cleaner to see. All right, so listen. This zone is the zone of all the actual solutions to this problem. Every coordinate within that shaded zone is a solution to the inequality system. So I'm going to choose a coordinate at random and just check whether it works. Choose an easy one. How about -3, 0 definitely is in there. This marker isn't so good though. So -3, 0. I'm going to test -3, 0. If it works, I shaded the correct region. Now, if I made a mistake, it won't work, and that will tell me I made a mistake. We check both of them. They have to work for both. Okay, so let's try the checks here. The first one, 0 has to be less than or equal to -1/2 of -3. Be careful with your negatives, plus 3. 0 has to be less than or equal to negative times negative is positive, and 1/2 of 3 is 1½ plus 3. That means 0 has to be less than or equal to 4½ I believe that it is. Now that's only testing the first equation. We have to test both. So now we test the second equation. Is 0 greater than -3 minus 4? Well, that would mean 0 is greater than -7. 0 is greater than any negative number. So that worked as well. And I have confidence now that I shaded the correct regions. Obviously, I could have made lots of mistakes with the graphing of the lines and accidentally stumbled upon the right shading. Be very careful with your graph. Obviously, it's important. But that's the solution to my system. The shaded area is the solution to my system, not just the one coordinate I chose to test. It's the entire graph. Shade the region where they overlap. That's the answer. All right. So I'm going to give you just one problem to check on your own, okay? So let's look at the one problem that you have to solve and check. I think that's pretty fair. Y is greater than or equal to negative 1/3 x plus 2. Y is less than 2x minus 1. It's your only homework assignment. I'd like you to graph it. Make sure you shade correctly. Make sure you graph carefully. Take a picture of it and email it directly to me. That's all. I hope you have a great day.